7:15. All right. Counselors, how are you today?
Fine, thank you.
Fine.
Thanks for asking.
Great. Glad you all are here. The purpose of this meeting is basically, this is the second meeting of a series of meetings. Is that thing open? Oh, it's not. A series of meetings to do an investigation to figure out, or I don't want to use the word investigation, let's just say to figure out what the processes are and places of improvement for over at the soccer complex, and how we can, all the multiple leagues can work together to serve our community. I am the vice chair of the committee. Mrs. Councilor Wheeler is the chair, but she was not able to make it due to a personal conflict. So, first thing on the agenda, like I said, is to continue gathering those information and get the discussion. One of the things that I wanted to make sure of is that at our last meeting, all of the organizations that were being discussed did not have representation at the meeting. And so, is there anyone here representing Lawrence Soccer Club? Yes, okay. Is there anyone here representing FC Pride?
Yeah, but may I stipulate that no notice was ever sent out for this meeting?
With this meeting, personally, I'm not the chair of this committee, but I do know, as with other meetings, the notice is sent to the clerk's office, and then the clerk posts the meeting and sends out invites to a long sheet of folks. So that might be something to make sure that you get added to Kathy's announcement email. Well, if once we want to talk to me, sir, we can come to the podium and I will acknowledge you and we can talk. I'm not ready to do that quite now, okay? I just wanted to make sure that there were folks here representing each organization that would be in discussion.
Just for clarity, the meeting for tonight was properly public notice in accordance with law. Whether individuals received individualized notice, maybe the issue that you're talking about, I don't know if that happened, but this meeting was noticed in accordance with law.
Okay. The question I have. So we have someone here from Lawrence Soccer Club. We have someone here from FC Pride. Do we have anyone here from Lawrence? And I apologize for not maybe pronouncing quite LSCI to represent them. Okay, we do have someone there. Excellent. And then I also see that we have Mara, Miss Mara. I assume that you'll be representing the city's interests this evening. Okay, good, excellent. And I know we also have some parks committee meetings, and I also see our parks director. So this is great. So this way, all the right folks are here to answer the questions, so that we can get the direct information out and hear it straight from folks who have been involved with these organizations. Okay, so counselors, we'll start off by asking counselors, do you have any particular questions of any particular organizations that you would like for me to call to the podium?
Yes, I do. I would like to speak to the gentleman from FC Pride. For the record, sir, could you state your name?
Yeah, please state your name and your address, please.
Sure. It's Ed Richardson. I'm the president of FC Pride. Address is 8317 Admiral's Landing Place.
Awesome. Thank you, sir.
That is Area 6.
My first concern, and we may get back to this in just a bit, but I myself have done a little research as far as all the park board members and the people that are affiliated with this soccer, and I think a good valid point that if none of these individuals, such as yourself, what is your position with FC Pride, sir?
I'm president of the
You're the
club.
president.
Yeah.
So I would think that notifications would have surely have went out to you from this committee.
Yeah.
If in fact we wanted to get your side of this story, if this LSCI. So I'm just curious as to why it is we're only getting one side of the story and why the committee's not looking further. But with that being said, could you explain to me your one of the things we heard is that FC Pride has way better fields and it's maintained much better than Lawrence Soccer. Do you have any idea if that's true, or any idea if it is true why that might be? Or
So I don't know what story we're even talking about here. I don't know what the investigation is about. I don't know anything about what this group is looking for, asking for, investigating, researching.
Well,
There's
maybe I
no
can-
information that's really been put
I
out.
can maybe assist you with that. I can personally say that I attended one of your LSCI meetings. Remember that
Last,
week?
okay.
Remember?
Uh-huh.
And I had some questions that I wanted to ask you.
Uh-huh.
But do you remember how that went?
Yeah, you came in what time?
Late.
Okay. You came in after we had been discussing for some time, didn't announce who you were, and started asking questions.
We did.
It was
I did
a
announce
private
who.
meeting.
I did announce who I was.
It was a private meeting,
Right.
and you didn't have any standing in the group.
So with that being
So
said,
it
then
was not clear to me what you were doing. So we finished our discussion, and then you asked your questions.
I asked one question towards the end. So the question, though, what you're saying is that I have no standing with the group. It was a private meeting.
Right.
Okay. So then when would I have the opportunity, besides this one as a counselor, to ask you directly what the investigation was about? So this is the opportunity for us to be able to inform you kind of what this situation is about. And that's why we're having
So-
we're having the meetings.
I've been
Give us
involved with
opportunity.
soccer in Lawrence since 2004, so 12 years.
Mhm.
I was president of NYSL. I coached over 20 teams over there. I've lived in Lawrence my entire life. So if people want to get a hold of me, there's never been a problem. So I don't know why you wouldn't be able to get a hold of me. My email is posted on our website
Right.
on the internet.
Right.
So if you want to ask me any questions, you don't have to wait for a meeting. You can call me. I handed out my business card at the meeting. I don't think you took it. You gave it to Miss Wheeler. But, I'm not trying to not communicate. I'm just
Well,
not
that's-
being
and
asked
this is-
any questions.
Well, and this is the form that we've chosen to use to start the process. I mean, really, how this all started was that we were approached as a council by one of the organizations involved with the soccer club that they were having issues with the usages of the park,
Okay.
and that's how this all kind of came to be. I know myself, and I don't think any of the other councils attest to be a soccer or parks department expert, and that's the reason why we're having the questions. And I appreciate you taking the time to be here this afternoon.
Well, and I'm happy to be here. It's just a bit curious that the way that the council's going about this, without really sending out invitations and contacting the people involved, it just seems a bit haphazard. And I'm not sure you're going to get a very good investigation, research. You're not going to get very good answers to your questions if you don't ask the people who are involved.
Well,
Directly.
right, and that's why
So I'm here
right.
on my own accord because I found out about it in a kind of haphazard
Convoluted
way.
yeah.
So I'm here to answer your questions.
Right.
So let's get back to the counselor's question.
yeah, I do.
I mean, hold on a second. I will get back to the counselor's questions.
Okay.
Okay. But there is a format of how we do things, and so you're really supposed to speak directly to the chair, and then the acknowledgement happens to the council, to the counselor, and we'll kind of do it in an orderly fashion in that way. So, Counselor Wells, do you have questions for Mr. Richardson?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
You've already disclosed your financials to the city.
So, but you had another question. Do you want me to answer that first question first?
Well, I got interrupted, so I forgot.
You'd
what it
asked about
was.
He asked about the condition of the fields. Do you want me to
Field
answer that
conditions.
question, Chairman?
It
Do
was
you want me to
field
answer his
conditions.
first question or the second one?
Yes, field conditions. Yes.
Do you want me to answer that question?
Yeah.
Please proceed, Counselor.
Yes, I did
Okay.
ask about the field conditions.
Okay,
I'm sorry,
so,
I got distracted.
The conditions of the field is, that's people's opinions. I don't know how you objectively evaluate the condition of grass. There are 21 different soccer fields of the Lawrence Soccer Complex. We basically use for our league games 1 through 14, and then Lawrence Soccer uses 15 through 21. Both organizations are responsible for maintaining their fields. We have paid staff that is their job, is to work on the conditions of the fields. Ours, 1 through 14, get used by multiple organizations. So Cathedral High School uses 1 through 14. We use 1 through 14. There is an adult league, there's a Latino league, so there's multiple organizations that use those leagues. And because of their use, we struggled with maintaining the fields, so we hire somebody to maintain them. Based on my experience at NYSL, that's a volunteer organization, so when I was there, I was responsible for maintaining the fields at NYSL. So 15 through 21, I worked as a volunteer to maintain those fields. So I reseeded, I drove tractors, whatnot. I think there's been a distortion in the understanding of how the organizations work together in the Lawrence Soccer Complex. You mentioned LSCI earlier, and I think there's some who feel like LSCI, that's their responsibility. It's the responsibility of LSCI to maintain all the fields. It was never the intent of LSCI to be a service that was on call for the groups that use those fields. It was intended as a co-op where you contribute money and then you buy equipment that for any one organization would be too expensive. But if we combined all our resources, we could then buy the tractors, we could buy the grass seed, we could buy the paint and the paint sprayers and all the equipment that's needed to run our soccer operations. And so we cooperated together. Everybody uses the same equipment that is LSCI. And there's a volunteer who manages that, and that's Mark Lemon. He doesn't get paid. He's just a volunteer. He's been involved with soccer since soccer began in Lawrence. So I think the question is wrong. The question, I think, steers the group toward that there's something wrong with the organizations. I don't think there's anything wrong with the organizations. I don't think there's anything wrong with the fields. Can they be maintained better? Probably. But it's the responsibility of those that use the fields to maintain them.
I'm sorry, yeah, if I may follow up with my next question, if I may. You said that you pay I guess, an outside landscaper?
No, he's an employee,
He's an employee.
a part-time employee.
Okay, but yet you pay someone to help you.
Yep.
But this comes out of your group. It doesn't come out of LSCI.
Mm-mm. It's out of our funds that we collect, that we make,
Okay.
and that's in addition to the volunteers, the parent volunteers who also work on the fields. So it's a combination. But we found that it was overwhelming for our group to keep up with, as hard as those fields are used, again, considering the multiple groups, that parent volunteers weren't enough to maintain them in the way that they needed to be maintained.
So so let me understand, LSCI is a co-op of resources,
Yep.
but not for labor
It's
or,
Correct. There is no labor. There are no employees. It is a holder of assets. So it owns the tractors. It owns the aerators, the equipment that is used to maintain the fields. But there are no employees. There are no workers. It is a pool of assets that the organizations that are part of it, FC Pride and Lawrence Soccer, contribute into it so that we have the resources available that we can then draw on to maintain the fields. It's not a service that you can call up and say, hey, I got a problem on field 10, can you come fix it? There's no one there. There's no employees. There's no labor. There's no organization. It's
so if
just
you
a
have
co-op.
an issue with a field or with your concession stand, that would be either you would take it upon yourself to fix it, or
Yep.
you would contact Eric with the
Right.
park
When it comes to the buildings, we work closely with the Parks Department because the Parks Department owns all of the structures. So even if we pay for a structure in the Lawrence Soccer Complex, as soon as it is built, the city owns it.
Right.
So the concession stands, the scoring tower on Field 5, the lights that we're paying for. We pay for them, we don't own them. So we pay for them, the city owns the lights.
All right.
I have a question. I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
That's it. You led into something else. We'll start right here with the lights. I have not seen the contract yet. Jonathan, have you seen the contract
Which
on the
contract?
purchasing of the lights?
It was alluded to so that
Yeah.
Mr.
Richardson.
Sorry, Mr. Richardson knows. In my job, I'm the council's attorney, the city
Okay.
council's attorney. Just so you know, it was alluded to last week by an individual that at some point along the line, the city received a grant, or there was a
To
grant
purchase the
received
lights,
to
yeah.
purchase the lights. I have not seen
No.
that material, but that's what he's alluding to. Someone explained that to the council, or that was a suggestion made to the council last week.
So if I may clarify, that is incorrect. The purchase of the lights was a project taken on by FC Pride. We took a loan from the National Bank of Indianapolis. We still have that loan. It's worth about $100,000 still. So we've been paying on it for probably 10, 15 years. I have a copy of it if you'd like to see it.
Please.
You're welcome to have a copy of it. But like I said, as soon as you put an asset, a permanent asset into the ground, build something, it becomes the property of the city.
All right.
So-
Well, thank you. Please provide us with
I
that
will.
contract, and that's great information, and that's what we're trying to. That stuff like that is exactly why you're here, is to make sure that we can get facts and not a bunch of hearsay.
Right.
Okay, because that's a major issue there, and that leads to a couple questions I have about your paid.
Well, if I maybe just clarify, it's not a major issue. There is no issue,
That
right?
well, it's a major
With the
issue
lights?
for me. How about
What
that?
is the issue?
It's a major issue for me, and concerning the lights, and I'll explain to you why. Okay, just give us some time. All right. So, question: the paid person who does the labor,
Uh-huh.
who uses LCSI equipment,
Right.
does he do any work on fields 15 through 21?
No.
No.
Because that's the responsibility of Lawrence Soccer. So when I was at NYSL/Lawrence Soccer, I drove the tractors, I used the equipment, I did the work. Others did it as well. It's a volunteer organization.
Right, I
Because
understand
of
that.
its
I understand
structure.
that. But the question was, you pay an employee, which I understand, right? But that employee works on your fields.
Correct.
So that, I'm asking that question because that could maybe lead into why your fields are in better shape than the other fields, because you're making more of an investment into fields 1 through 14.
Well, I challenge the whole assumption of how you evaluate a field, but we do apply more resources probably than.
Well, the way I would say
than
this, I'll give you an example. Councilor Williams' yard looks a lot better than mine because Councilor Williams spends way more time, money, and effort.
But you agree
his
that that's a
yard-
subjective.
It's very
Evaluation.
clear his yard looks better than mine.
But how do you quantify
It's
that?
thicker, it's better. Some golf courses look better, right? You know what I mean?
But how do you quantify that?
Okay. I mean, jeez.
I know, I'm
You know
just
what I
saying,
mean?
But here's the problem.
If you add more grass, if you
Okay.
water more, if you add more treatment, if you do the things that make, if you aerate,
Sure.
if you do those things that make grass grow strong
Sure.
and pretty, it's going to appear
Right.
to be in better shape than a field that has less money and time invested in it. That's all I'm trying to say.
My only point is, if we get involved in, the grass is always greener on the other side, and we get into that all the time, we're going to be wasting a lot of time.
Well,
Because we can't evaluate that type of a statement objectively, and so it becomes, in my mind, it's not something that's a very worthwhile point.
I'm gonna, if I can, Mr. Chairman, I'm gonna jump in here just so I can try to reset, and so that hopefully we don't feel like we're having to talk past each other. And I know you weren't here last week, and I won't speculate as to the reasons. I'm sure you didn't feel you had proper notice, didn't know about the meeting, and that's fine. And I don't know if that's true or untrue. Sure it is. I wouldn't doubt you would tell me if that's what you would say. But I want to reset this committee to make sure we understand ultimately what our charge is as a committee. The president of the council asked after the council was approached by some individuals from Lawrence Soccer Club to look into what was going on. There were a couple allegations that was made. One was that some money that Lawrence Soccer Club paid, they didn't know where it went, and that was sort of to determine what LSCI was and what it is. Last week at the council meeting, or at the committee meeting, this committee learned that LSCI is not an entity of the city. It is an entity that is represented by a board made up of 2 members from Lawrence Soccer Club, 2 members from FC Pride, and 1 from the city. So that gave you a little bit more in-depth information on LSCI. The purpose of what we're attempting to do, and I know you're trying not to necessarily make a point, you're just trying to understand and get some more information. I want Mr. Richardson to know. I don't think that there's any intent by this committee to say that LSC or FC Pride or the Hispanic League or anybody else has more right or standing to the parks. It's just to try to figure out, why are these folks from Lawrence Soccer Club concerned? And is there something the city should do to make sure that Lawrence Soccer Club feels like they have a place here in Lawrence because they're the folks that came forward? Your name and FC Pride has come up in those conversations. And last week I advised the committee that before we make any discussion on FC Pride, we should make sure we talk to those folks. So I think we're just trying to get information. And I hope that's what I want to reset the committee. That's our intent, is to learn as much as we can. Use the information that Mr. Richardson has. He's got years of experience here in Lawrence on both sides to try to figure out all the information we possibly can in the hopes of understanding if there's something that the city, the council needs to do or not do to help everybody feel that they have a place to play soccer here in Lawrence. So hopefully that'll help you with your next question.
I'm doing just fine. I just want my questions answered. That's
I know
all.
you do.
So, because some of the things that are concerning to me may not be concerning to you, and some things that are concerning to you may not be concerning to me, but fortunately, I have constituents and people I need to represent, and I'm trying to get an understanding of what's going on or why people have perceptions. This reason why I think a lot of it is not intentional. What I'm starting to see, some things we're trying to figure out where it's at so we can figure this out. So, the question I had was, you had said that you guys, FC Pride, pays a person to maintain the fields.
Right.
You said because you noticed that with parent volunteer,
Right.
you needed more help
Yep.
to keep the field up and
Correct.
to your standard.
Correct.
Right? So
Correct.
you pay somebody to do a job.
Yep.
So I'm saying when you're paying someone to do that job and they're doing a fine job, then I would assume that if you're paying somebody to work on field 1 through 14, and it looks just like 15 through 21 and no one's doing anything to, you would have a problem that you're not making a very good investment with your money. So that's where I'm saying I wanted to know if that was my question there. The other question that I also have is related to the field with the lights.
Uh-huh.
The field belongs to the city, even though you paid for the lights.
So let's be clear, it's not just one, there's three.
3 fields. Okay, that's even better.
The whole complex is owned by the city.
Right, I understand that.
And all the
just
assets owned.
Can you follow me?
Yeah.
Just follow me down this
I'm
road,
just clarifying.
please. So you have 3 fields that are lit, and you took out FC Pride,
Yeah.
took out a loan through the
Right.
National Bank of Indianapolis
Yeah.
to pay for these fields to be lit.
Correct.
Correct. Who gets to play on those fields?
Anybody wants to use them. Lawrence Soccer, Cathedral, FC Pride.
In your experience, when's the last time Lawrence Soccer Club has played on those fields?
We've scheduled Friday Night Lights, events that we've had with them, anytime they wanted to. We've never denied them the ability to play on those fields.
I'd like to ask someone from FC Pride. I mean, not from FC, I'm sorry, from Lawrence Soccer Club. Could you approach, please? Hi, sir. State your name and
Jim Langham, I'm on the board of Lawrence Soccer.
your address as well, sir.
10252 Wellborn Drive, Indianapolis, 46236.
Okay.
I've been on the board just a couple of years, and
So let me ask you this question that we follow to. How long have you been on the board?
this is my third year.
30 years. In the 3 years have you been on the board, has Lawrence Soccer Club played under the lights?
That wasn't part of what I did, so I don't know if we requested. I mean, I can't answer that. I mean, I've never asked.
Have you ever witnessed a game under the lights?
No, I mean, I haven't witnessed FC Pride play under the lights. I mean,
Okay.
so
So maybe the president of the league is a better person to ask that question to. Please state your name and address and your position with Lawrence Soccer Club, please.
DeBoer Smith, 3356 Christian Court, Indianapolis, 46235, president of the Lawrence Soccer Club. And for the last at least year, 2 years, we have not played under the lights. Prior to that, we have. The last time we were scheduled to, there was a mix-up or something, and we didn't play under the lights.
So let me ask you 2 real clear questions. Do you remember what, I'm not going to ask you exact date, but what season, because you guys run like spring, summer, fall seasons?
Spring and fall.
Spring and fall season. What season was the last time you scheduled to play under the lights?
I'm thinking it would have been in the fall, but not this past fall. Maybe 2015.
And when
No,
was the last time you?
2014.
When was the last time you played under the lights?
I think it would have been around 2014. I don't recall in 2015 or 2016.
So
14.
2014 may have been the last that you recall that you played under the
Yes.
lights. Okay, thank you.
No, may
Oh,
I
go ahead,
please, Mr. Chair? Have you ever made the request to play under the lights and just were told no?
I don't make the request, but no, we've never been told no. We've been told yes, and then things have come up there we couldn't the last time that it was requested. I mean, I don't know exactly what. It could have been that they had something going on that I don't know. But the last time that it was requested, again, I didn't make the request, so I don't know for sure. But it was changed and we denied.
So to the best of your knowledge, you were never denied other than the one time because there was some conflict. Would that be an accurate statement?
As far as what I know, yes.
But you don't make the request.
No, I do not.
Who makes the request?
Depends on who's scheduling the games. I don't schedule the games.
Who schedules the games?
Patty Regas, she's the director of operations. She does a lot of scheduling. At the time, Derek Harris, he's no longer.
Right, but of recent time. I mean,
Recent.
Of recent.
It would have
last
been
couple
Patty.
years.
Yes.
Patty. Okay, thank you,
You're welcome.
Mr. Richardson. Thank you, I appreciate that. One of the questions that I have regarding to that is, what is the process of the fields being scheduled?
The process goes through a statewide database. So there's a database that the Indiana Youth Soccer uses, and so we, the soccer clubs that are part of that organization, basically say, how many fields do you have? And then the state uses that database to schedule the youth soccer games. And so those can be the rec, they can be the travel. In addition to that, we will use that same database to, schedule the Latino games. The beauty of using one database is that you try to eliminate conflicts that pop up, like we just heard about. If you don't use something like that, then you can have conflicts. So if someone uses the field, generally speaking, if they want to use 1 through 14, they typically will call us, but more likely they can also call Mark Lemon. See, Mark Lemon, being LSCI, is able to schedule over the entire soccer complex. We can't schedule over at 15 through 21. That's NYSL's or at Lawrence Soccer's. Those are their fields. So we don't have any. We don't have anything over there. But for off times when we're not using our fields, those are open for other leagues to use. That's when it defers to Lawrence or LSCI and Mark Lemon.
It's okay. And so I guess, Council, do you have any more questions for Ms.?
I don't think I do. I do have a question for LSCI.
Right, that's what
when we get to that point, yeah. Do you have anything, sir, that you would like to conclude with, or?
Again, I've been involved with soccer for a long time. I think there's a lot of misconceptions, misunderstandings, misstatements that are being batted around about soccer in Lawrence. Unfortunately, this has been par for the course. The parents never get along. And that's always been a problem.
Why do you believe that? If the leagues are separate, why do the parents not get along?
I can't explain it. There's always, we talked about it earlier, the grass is greener over on that side, no matter which side you're on. One group thinks the other one's getting a little bit better treatment for some reason. The two have tried to merge multiple times, but we've never been able to get the parents to get together and just have one. If you look at how soccer organizations are run around across the country, say Cincinnati or Dallas. Dallas Soccer Club has 10,000 players in it. It's citywide. Cincinnati is the same way. They've gotten their act together. They've combined all their resources, and they have these really big organizations which allow kids to have much more opportunities. But it takes the parents to first have to get along and be able to not have all this animosity toward each other to be able to accomplish these things like that. In Indianapolis, it's not just Lawrence. You got the same thing going up in Carmel. Carmel United and Carmel's dad's club never got together. And Carmel United finally went to Westfield and became Indy Fire. It's tragic in my mind that, in my opinion, that the parents of this community have never been able to get together, and we should just have one organization. Why does a kid have to start in rec, and then if he wants to do travel, he has to quit that club and go join a different one? It's the same park.
So let me ask you this question. That leads to the final question I did have for you. I'm sorry. Is FC Pride starting a rec league, or has, or plans?
We have found that there are kids in Lawrence that are not being served. That because of the cost increases at Lawrence Soccer that have occurred, that there are kids who can no longer play there. The costs are much higher than when I was there. Not only for those that pay, but when I was there was a program where we copied it off the Children's Museum. And the Children's Museum says if you have a HealthWise or a HealthWorks card, then you pay a very small fee to use the Children's Museum.
We were told that that program is still going on.
It may be, I don't know.
Okay.
But it's not on the website anymore. It's no longer on, it's not promoted.
Okay.
So we put it on the form when I was there. And if you had those, you checked that and you paid $25.
Right.
That's it.
I think that's great.
So, if it's still there, fine. But there are a lot of kids who are not playing. And you can identify very large specific groups that are not utilizing the park. For instance, the Latino community has a very small representation in Lawrence soccer, no matter if it's rec, travel, anything. It is extremely small. And yet when you have the Latino Adult League, you would be stunned at how many Latinos use the Lawrence soccer complex. It's a huge number. Why aren't there kids playing in Lawrence? I don't have the answer for that. But there is a underserved group in Lawrence that we think needs to be able to play. So instead of fighting with other parents, we said we're going to offer low cost and we're going to give them as much instruction as we can so that the parents know how to teach their kids, so that we can help teach the kids, and that the whole community is better for it.
What's the cost of the league?
For our league, it's
The
going to
rec
be
league.
for ours is going to be $75.
$75?
And what is the cost of your? Does the travel? I guess is the
It
next.
depends on the age group and the level that you're playing at. So
You got
it
a
varies.
range.
It can range from a couple $100 up to over $2,000,
Are there any?
and that's for a year. That's not for a season.
Are there any scholarships or any opportunities for?
This past year, we gave out over $30,000 in scholarships for players to play in our club, and we're looking to expand that with the rec league. So we are going to commit more dollars to get more kids to be able to play.
Mr. Richardson, before you go, just want to get a little clarification, if I may. On this this fellow that you've got that you hired, is he a 1099 employee, or do you?
Yeah, we pay. We have 1099. We have W-2 forms that we fill out. We pay payroll taxes.
Okay. Is he the only paid employee? I mean,
No, we have part-time employees and we have full-time employees. He's considered a part-time
okay.
employee for that particular job that he does. But we have other types of employees. So we have other. We pay some coaches to coach part-time. We have some that not only coach but are responsible for other coaches, and so they are full-time employees. We only have probably 3 or 4 of those full-time employees.
What about your concession staff? Is that volunteer, or are
Yep.
they?
Volunteer.
Those are all volunteer.
Yeah.
So, and then I assume the other employees you're paying are like refs.
We pay refs.
Right, play refs.
That's a state.
Right,
Right.
right. So you pay refs, but as far as your staff, you're paying coaches for, I guess, some of your high-level travel stuff, and you're paying a maintenance man or field or whatever you want to call him,
Grass guy.
groundskeeper. Yeah.
Grass guy.
The grass guy. Okay, I like that. The grass guy. Okay,
It's hard to get a good grass guy.
it's hard to get. Yeah,
There's not
But,
many of them around.
huh?
There's not many of them around.
Right, but that good grass guy though, does he do a good job?
Well, I'd ask you you decide.
Oh, I mean, you know,
We think he does.
You tried to convince me, and we got kind of nasty with me that 15 through 21 looks just as good as
First
But anyway,
off-
I see the city trying to leave, and I got questions for them.
I never said 15 through 21 looked as good, and I never got nasty. If you took it that way, I'm sorry, but I never got nasty.
Mr. President,
Yes,
may I?
yes.
Um,
I do see.
Greg Allen.
Mm-hmm.
You know, these are observations.
Yeah.
You know, coming from me.
Uh-huh.
Number one, my 2 daughters came up through Lawrence Soccer,
Mhm.
and one of them still participates in soccer now. She's a sophomore in high school. We ended up leaving Lawrence Soccer League
Mhm.
prior to my youngster joining high school. And it was because of field conditions. She was out there getting hurt. Okay, so as a father, I can firsthand attest to the fact that, that there were some issues. I don't know if there are issues now, but there were some issues in terms of field conditions, and I can attest to that. The other thing is, it would be great, if our energies were spent on giving a serious look at, combining forces, with equity, across the board. Because I think that we're much stronger,
Yep.
Working together.
Absolutely.
And this is not an investigation. This is a fact-finding mission, based on some concerns that was brought to the body.
Sure.
So to that end, I just wanted to share that with you.
And I'd be happy to show you the previous proposals that we have presented to Lawrence Soccer, the Lawrence Parks Board about combining them all, and yet they've all previous efforts have failed. So unfortunately, and just to the point about the grass. Look, I don't want to make a big deal about that.
Now, leave the grass alone.
Just let me just say one thing. Anytime you got dirt, humans, and rain, all right, and they're all working against each other, you're going to have field conditions that aren't optimal. Now, what we're talking about right now, just so you know, is we're thinking, well, how can we get turf fields down?
Mm-hmm.
Okay? On those fields where you got lights, Cathedral's using them real hard, we use them hard, other people want to use them. What if we put turf down 3, 4, and 5 under the lights? And then you don't have the grass, dirt, human
Okay, that's
torn up problem. But now you're talking about probably $1 million.
okay.
It's a lot of money. And the thing is, as soon as you spend that $1 million, the city owns it.
Okay, well, and I hear you, and I see that vision. However, can you share with me the common threads in terms of the several times that everybody attempted to become a body as one?
Yeah.
What were the common threads that kept that from working?
So when I was at NYSL, this was before it became Lawrence Soccer, I put a proposal together to FC Pride saying, let's get this together. The staff at FC Pride would not agree to the combination.
Because
They were afraid that they weren't going to get paid like they did when they were separate, the staff members. And I'll just tell you, once I moved over to FC Pride, once my son started playing there and I ended up on the board, all those staff members were fired. So we don't have that problem now.
Okay.
When we have proposed it to Lawrence Soccer, there's been a lot of discussions about, well, are we going to get equal treatment? How's it going to work? We've talked about combining the boards, creating committees. We'd have to come up with a new bylaws for both organizations. It would be a new animal, so there would have to be compromises on both sides. But you'd get rid of probably LSCI. It wouldn't even exist anymore. You just have one soccer organization that is over the whole complex and represents all the kids in Lawrence. And you don't have this back and forth about, you're just serving the kids in Lawrence, which is, as a matter of fact, the mission statement for both nonprofit organizations, FC Pride and Lawrence Soccer. Their mission statement is to serve the youth of Lawrence.
Yeah.
So why the parents can't get their act together and just do that, I can't explain it. Because for the 15 years I've been involved, or 10, 15, it's never happened.
Yeah.
And it's a shame. It's a shame. Because we're spending a lot of energy and stuff on stuff that's not really
I agree.
that
And
important.
in closing, and I'm going to leave it alone for the record, my daughter now plays with FC Pride. She enjoys it.
Great.
It would be great if everybody could experience that level of instruction and training,
Mhm.
and I would like to see us move towards something like that across the board.
Our vision is we bring that to the rec program. All right. What you're talking about, that
No, that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about, I'm listening to you saying, let's do one umbrella.
Yeah.
And I'm agreeing with
Okay.
working on one umbrella that encompasses,
Yeah, absolutely.
everybody. So
I
that's
totally
where I'm
agree.
coming from.
Yep. Totally agree.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. could we now call the gentleman who's here to represent LSCI to the podium, please? Hi, sir. State your name and address, please.
Mark Lemon, 7437 East 49th Street, 46226.
All right, Mr. Lemon. It's nice to meet
Can
you.
I update on that grant thing? Because
Yeah.
Ed wasn't here so he's a little bit behind on the lights. So, because he wasn't here at the time. In 2000, the city did receive a grant for Field 3 lights. Field 3 lights was put in with a grant from USU Soccer. The loan that FC Pride has is for Fields 4 and 5. So when you ask about a grant, there was a grant,
Okay,
but it
great.
was for the previous set of lights.
So we started in 3, and
Yeah,
then
3
we took
only.
it, right, and then we
And-
took it to 4 and 5.
Correct.
Okay. Now let me ask you, because you've been around, been.
He is youth soccer.
Well, I was, I'm gonna be honest with you. I told my wife, and don't take it in a bad way. I called you the soccer czar. I said I got to meet this Mark Lemon guy, the soccer czar, because a lot of the answers of the questions came back to you. And so,
And let me state that my notice of this meeting was when Eric sent me an email saying, you need to get the financials from 2008 to 2016 for the board. That's how I found about this meeting.
Mhm.
And you guys are talking about all the stuff I know about, like you're saying, but I'm not involved. So that, to
the
me,
meeting-
that's a,
you missed one. The chair had a personal issue. She was not here today. You missed one meeting, and I wish that you were here. If you weren't here today, I'll be honest with you, I was going to call and end the meeting if there was no one here from FC Pride and no one here from LSC LSCI. Because there was no need to even meet if you weren't here, because the questions that were unanswered were either questions to be asked to FC Pride or questions to be asked for yourself. And so I'm glad that you're here. And maybe we need to do a better job of figuring out how to make sure that key people are invited who are not a part of the typical political, the typical city deal. So I extend my apologies to you. Now, I had a lot of questions for you, sir, and so I'm going to start off with allowing the counselors to start off with their questions.
Thank you. Mr. Lemon, one thing or a couple things that I'm kind of fuzzy about. In the last meeting, Lawrence Soccer said that their 2 representatives, if I remember correctly, they were unsure who they were with your organization, and apparently there is no attendance by Lawrence Soccer. Is that an accurate statement, or?
yes,
to the meetings
in the
and
past, it's always been the president of MYSL plus one more board member. When Ed come over to FC Pride, nobody ever stepped up from MYSL, LSC, to take that position.
So, for clarity, Lawrence Soccer was contributing their monetary payments or whatever.
When Ed left the board and Todd Coulter, the treasurer, there was no more financial stuff from LSC to LSCI.
When was that he left?
14?
In 14?
Yeah.
Oh, no, I left NYSL by 2010.
2010?
Yeah, because it was in 2014, I believe, I'd have to look at my records, is when they stopped paying any fees, park usage fees.
Councilor Wells, do you have a copy of the financials that were given to us at the
Yes.
last? Okay, because I know there it kind of shows when the last time
Yes,
they made a
it does.
contribution.
And I just trying to get a clarification for the people in the audience as well. One thing that was brought up, and I know it's probably insignificant, but it kind of weighs into the way this thing works, or at least the way I see that it works. Lawrence Soccer mentioned a golf cart, or disrepair of a golf cart. Would that be the golf cart? Would that be one of the assets that LSCI would have procured for the use of?
Okay,
Is there a pool of
LSCI
golf carts or?
LSCI has 2 golf carts.
Okay.
Those golf carts were purchased because with the adult leagues out there,
Mhm.
I require that they have security, a Lawrence police officer on site. The police officers were sitting in the car when it was bad weather and stuff, and you got to be able to hear
Right.
when there's a discrepancy on the field. You got to hear that so you can go. So the golf carts were purchased for security,
They were purchased by
LSCI.
by LSCI, 2
Yes.
of them.
Yes.
Okay.
FC Pride has a golf cart of their own also that they purchased.
Right, yeah. I did hear about that. And I guess my question is, you were talking about having tractors and I guess mowers and these golf carts. I've got several golf carts myself on a property down south, and mowers, and I know that this equipment requires a lot of maintenance. Is that something that your organization is responsible for, is the maintenance on all these
Yes,
vehicles?
LSCI takes care of all the maintenance. Most of it is myself that does it, the repairs. If it's something major, it goes to Reynolds Farm Equipment or someplace that's capable of fixing it. But,
Okay.
the day-to-day maintenance on it, that is
Okay.
completely me.
I know at the last meeting, Lawrence Soccer indicated that their golf cart was in disrepair. Was that something that LSCI would repair? Maybe, is there a reason why it wasn't repaired, or?
Nobody asked me to do it. The golf cart this past season
Mhm.
had some problems. I went over there, worked on it. I've had my security officer that works for the 2 clubs. We have security out there paid for by the 2 clubs while the kids are on site also, just to make sure there's no problems out there. He looked at the golf cart, determined the batteries needed. They purchased batteries. He put the batteries in, took care of the one golf cart. The other one's got a bad motor that probably needs to be replaced. I worked on, figured out that if you just move the golf cart ahead 6 inches, it'll take off.
Okay,
It's got a bad spot in the motor where if it lands on that there, it won't go. So if you move it 6 inches, you can go. But it's
Right.
not LSCI's responsibility.
That's what we're trying to get to.
Yeah, because it's their golf carts, not, if one of the golf carts that I have for security out there was to
Mhm.
break down, then I would have to fix that there, so otherwise the officers wouldn't have a golf cart for security.
I guess my one concern, under the agreement with the city, as I read it with LSCI, is that there would be 5 members on this committee or board, I guess. And it doesn't seem to be that there's been 5 members. It does, not
No,
that
not-
it's any of your fault, but I just think that, I'm not sure why Lawrence Soccer didn't participate. Your meetings, do you notify better than we do, or?
No, I mean, the meetings basically, when something major needed to happen, because there's the day-to-day business of the field paint, the grass seed, the fertilizer, that happens every year. When we needed to purchase a major piece of equipment, when Ed was on the MYSL board, I would call him up and say, hey, I'm looking at this tractor. I'd call Eric Martin, tell him, hey, I'm looking at this tractor. Send them the information on it. They'd say, do you have the money for it? And, yes, we do. And that was our meeting, was just via
Okay.
phone.
Councilor Wells?
Yes.
I didn't know if you had any more questions.
No, go
Okay,
ahead.
so I
By
want
all
to
means.
jump in there. He led right into it. So,
You're giving us first dibs.
I didn't see your hand up there.
I'm very respectful. They're talking.
I didn't know you, I didn't
That's
know
how I
you
was
asked.
raised.
You didn't ask Mr.
I
Chair.
was waiting
let me
for the
acknowledge.
pregnant pause. Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
Thank you. Mr. Lemon, I got a couple of questions for now. You began answering that to this last question here. How often did the organization meet? I mean, it wasn't like a monthly or quarterly?
No, it was, originally when we first started, the first year was probably like quarterly. Then went to 6 months, then once a year, and then once a 2 years, and then never.
Then it's kind of dissipated.
Yeah.
Okay, so in terms of, yeah, I'll save that one. So the fees that were paid from Lawrence Soccer Club, what were those used for?
Okay, all the money goes in there, and I give the Parks Board a report every year.
Okay.
And they have that there. And it goes for all the field paint, the fertilizer, grass seed. The field paint is applied by the Parks Department. It's bought in 275-gallon totes. We go through 4 to 6 totes a year, depending on the weather and the more rain you have, the more you got to line the fields. That's over $10,000 a year in field paint alone for all 21 fields. When field 1 gets painted, field 21 gets painted. The Parks does them all. The fertilizer, LSCI purchases the fertilizer. The Parks Department puts it on the fields. They deliver 140 bags of fertilizer to the Parks Department, and the Parks employees put the fertilizer on all 21 fields.
So let me hear you. So my question was, where did Lawrence Soccer Club's fee money, where did that go?
It all goes into one general account,
All right.
and then everything's paid for out of that same account.
Okay, but then you said that Lawrence Soccer Club purchases their own and gives it to the city?
No,
Did I get
LSCI. LSCI purchases the fertilizer
Okay, I got you.
and the
I got you.
grass. And the grass seed is put down by the volunteers.
Okay. And so now,
And Ed's hard on tractors, so don't let him drive tractors, but
is that right?
he makes me repair a lot. But so I would purchase, LSCI
Okay.
would purchase the grass seed, and then volunteers would put the grass seed on.
Okay. But then in terms of like maintaining the fields at a different level, then they're expected to do that on their own,
Yes,
volunteerism
yes,
and
yep,
that type of thing.
Yep. The materials would all be provided, the dirt, the grass seed, the straw to cover the new grass
Okay.
seed, all that would be provided by LSCI.
By LSCI?
Mhm.
Okay. I'm good for now.
I have the financials in front of me. So a couple things I want to make sure that folks understand for the record. And I want to ask these questions to make sure I have a right understanding. There's been a lot said that since 2000 and the phone just switched on me. In 2008, LSC Lawrence Soccer Club made a payment of $6,000, but they didn't make any payments from 08 to 15, which alarmed me. But doing further investigation, it's my understanding, I want to make sure that I'm clear, that NYSL is a DBA of Lawrence Soccer Club.
Correct.
And they pay every year up until 2015. And the city has said that they paid the city directly in 2016. Not sure what happened in 2015. But the money that they've paid, $14,750, $14,800, $13,980. In 2013, it did drop significantly to $7,190, back up in 14 to $13,150. So I do want folks to, for the record, when you look at both organizations, they are paying just under a different DBA. They're just categorized differently, I guess. All right, so I wanted to make sure that was clear. Question I have for you is, just to make clear, do you have a board so who's on the board of LSCI?
Eric Martin, Ed Richardson, Todd Coulter. And then, like I say, in the past, it's always
Todd
been,
Culture
yes.
and yourself.
Well, I'm not really on the board of LSCI.
Okay.
I mean, because I'm not from FC Pride or from NYSL.
So what is your official role with LSCI?
I'm just the volunteer that goes out there and does it.
Okay, so you're a volunteer for LSCI.
Correct.
Okay. So Well, hold on. So I'm going to ask that question. And maybe maybe all three of you guys can come up on this one. No, not you, D. You, sir, and Mr. Martin.
So let me clarify. So the meeting you were at had all of the members, the representatives from each of the organizations. So you had 2 from FC Pride, 2 from Lawrence Soccer, and you had Eric Martin there.
And that was the meeting was the day before this meeting was convened. So the question is, when's the last time you met prior to that night?
I don't know. I have no idea.
It's earlier than in 16. And I'm not sure, again, if we had a full meeting or not, because it's Jim Langham and
Derek, yeah.
Derek.
But I mean, but you did contest. What I'm getting at is, Mr. Martin, in the last meeting, you said you had not been to an official meeting in over 2 years.
Yes.
Okay, so in all faction, I mean, in all, there really isn't a active board because LSC is not your fault, but they've turned over their board in during that time frame of those 2 years. As I'm gathering the facts, I want to make sure that I'm correct.
Sure.
They've turned their board over,
Yeah.
but you haven't had an official meeting.
So both organizations have turnover on a constant basis. So it's a constant challenge to, reassign who are the people that are going to be on these organizations. So really, the only constants have been Mark and Eric. All of the board members on NYSL, Lawrence Soccer, FC Pride have all turned over multiple times
I understand.
for
Right.
the
People's
life
kids
of.
go- keep going.
So it's a constant challenge to say, okay, who's on the board now? So I think
So
your
can I
point
ask you- can I-
really
can I-
is.
can I ask you these questions,
Can I
sir?
finish first? Can I
Well,
finish?
I didn't ask you a question.
Well, I was finishing the earlier question.
I just because I don't, and I'm not trying to be rude. 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 The question is.
Wait,
hold on,
is he threatening me?
Order. Let me ask you this question. Question I have. I just wanted to know that the meeting has not been
Chairman.
in 2 years. Okay?
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
The next question and I understand that people have turnover.
Sure.
The next question I have is the people who are constant. Are there any bylaws or positions of this board? Does the organization have bylaws?
Yes. And it has filed with the state. It's a nonprofit organization.
Can you provide me with those bylaws?
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
We can research them. I mean, they're filed with the state. You can download them off of the state.
So who's the board? So if it has bylaws, who's the board chair?
That was Eric, right? You were the chair?
Originally, I
Right.
think it's manifested since then, but originally in the original bylaws, the Parks appointing was the chairperson.
Who's the board treasurer?
There isn't one.
Have you had board elections?
Well, each organization elects their.
No, I mean within that board, you would basically, if I'm understanding this correctly, the organization would nominate their person to represent them on this organization. Then within that organization would have its own bylaws and its own seats, treasurer, secretary, minutes, even possibly historian. Right?
I don't think that's necessarily a requirement.
Is that a requirement?
Well, what I would say is boards only speak officially through their minutes under Indiana law. So typically you would see some sort of minutes, whether you have to have specific officers that be identified in your bylaws.
In the bylaws. So the bylaws that's why I guess we need the bylaws, and the bylaws will say. Here's the reason I'm asking these questions and leading to. The next question is, who has the ability to authorize payment of the money?
Well, I mean, the board would vote on Mark's proposals.
Has the board spent any money within the last 2 years?
Absolutely.
So you see where I'm getting at, fellas?
No.
No, you don't. Okay, I'll make it very clear. You haven't met in 2 years,
Mhm.
but you're receiving money.
Mhm.
And you don't have you say you have bylaws, right? And we're going to see what those bylaws are. But who's authorized to spend the money? You would say the board got to vote.
Well, if there was a major acquisition,
I
but
mean, just
Mark
whatever you buy,
was
whatever it is.
authorized on a day-to-day basis to buy things on a regular basis. If we had to have a vote for every bag of grass seed or every can of paint, then it would bog down. We all have different jobs and different positions. So,
Believe me, I understand that.
we've given Mark the authority to make the organization work, and there
But
hasn't
what I'm
necessarily
trying
been a
to say is
problem.
but a quarterly meeting, if you know that before season's going to start in March, I think it would be very understandable to have a quarterly meeting that says, "Hey, we're going to buy some seeds, some this, some that, and this, because we're getting ready for spring season," right? And folks would say, yep, we need to get however many pounds of seed or whatever the case may be. The point of all of this and why I'm trying to unveil this or unwrap this is that you have folks who believe we can't prove if they had a say in where their monies went. Did they have representation? Did they have meetings? And then who's authorized to do the spending of the money of something that I saw over six-figure monies in this account for this organization that's paid in by multiple places. People are paying in $14,000, $15,000 a piece into an organization that seems to not have much structure at best. I mean, is that an unfair statement?
I think it is unfair. I don't think it represents the fact that the organization has worked, and there is no indication that there's been a problem.
The indication of a problem, unfortunately, is that I'm here talking to you about it because it came to us as
So someone has
problem.
voiced an opinion.
an organization that pays into this or that has a contract with the city and this organization says, we have a problem.
So I guess the
We
question,
need help.
my question to that organization is, why haven't they gone to the people involved and talked to them?
Well, supposedly they had. And that's what we're trying to find out facts. Well, I'm not there, so that's where we're unpacking this. But I'm asking right now, though, if you have no meetings, then it makes it hard to follow some structure. And I don't know if this process, where you come from the city, as we're talking about voting out of this LSCI or doing it, how do I know that maybe it's a good idea, but just has not functioned well, and maybe it needs to be kept, but more structure related to it so that it works properly for all parties potentially involved. So that's my question I had. I got more questions for you, Mr. Lemon. Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Mr. Richardson, if I may, how are you guys listed with the state?
How are we listed?
Are you a
Nonprofit.
not-for-profit?
C501C.
Okay. So you're not an incorporation or,
Well, yeah, you're
You're a corporation,
incorporated
you're a 501c3.
as a nonprofit organization. Yeah, and that's a federal filing.
right,
Um,
right, you're right. And,
It's 2-5.
well, I guess Mr. Giles brings a point. My company is incorporated too. And we have to have minutes, we have to have a secretary and a treasurer and all that. And we have to file that, I think every couple of years. But, I think that maybe some of these concerns would be put to rest if the city would take more of a lead. Because the city actually has the vested interest per se, because they own the property. That maybe Eric, being the fifth person, needs to take more of a lead in these meetings. And because, myself, I don't see that you guys, I don't suspect that you've done any wrongdoing, or, I personally don't. I do think that it is, with the amount of money that Councilor Giles is talking about, that it is a little, makes you kind of want to raise your eyebrow just a little bit that these meetings are just on the whenever. And maybe that's all that it needs. I mean, you guys have to, function on a week-by-week, day-to-day basis. And you're right, you don't want to have to get a board approval for a bag of grass seed. But, if you have to buy a tractor, or if you have to do, say you have to replace an engine in a tractor, that's a substantial amount of money.
Sure.
And I mean, who does make those decisions?
Right. So there's never been an intent to obscure, confuse, hide,
Sure.
keep decisions away from other people, exclude. That's never been part of LSCI. I think, has it gotten too informal and loose? Yes. I think we can all agree that there's not enough structure and we can have more meetings and whatnot. But I got to be honest with you, I'm not looking for more meetings in my life. But if it helps for people to feel more comfortable with the organization, then absolutely, and we need to do it and produce as much information as people want. There's no denial of information here. At the same time, people have to be willing, if you schedule a meeting, people have to be willing to show up.
Well, I agree
And they
with
have
that.
to be willing to participate.
Yeah.
And they have to be a part of it. And if they don't show up,
Right.
then that's part of the deal.
Well, and I'm in full agreements of that, and I'm not saying that. Like I said, I have been a part of many youth organizations. I have a son that played football in all sports from 5 years old all the way through the collegiate level, and so I understand that. And believe it or not, with me taking the time to be a councilman, I was involved with those organizations. I'm not saying that, but I do know, and what I'm trying to protect, and I'll say it directly to you, and I'll say it directly to you, and I said it directly to the mayor's staff, and I'll say it to anyone. Couple things, guys, that I am concerned about. I'm just going to let you know, because I don't want to have a bunch of these meetings, so that's why I'm letting it all out. Couple concerns. One concern is when you don't have the structure of these meetings, and they're supposed to be collaborative organizations going on, and I am very concerned with Field 1 through 14 being FC Prides, and Field 15 through 21, or whatever the number of the split is, being used by another organization. It leads to the type of accusations that we've had done. I'm not saying that they're warranted, but when you have those separations and that sort of thing going on, it leads people to make those accusations. So if we tighten up our structure, and I personally, and I don't have the final say in this, but I personally would like to see kids play on field 17 in 1 week and play on field 1 the next week, then no one can say, hey, 1's better than 17. I got my highest level travel kid, $2,000 paying parent child playing on field 1 this week and field 17 on the next week. Then those courts are going to be better. Fields are going to. I mean, no one can say that there's a difference of those deals from refereeing, from whatever. So we used to have that issue in basketball. You walk into a field house or something, center court. If you put all your high athletes on center court, and then you put the referees over here that could barely run down the court on court 8, people start to say things. So if we could do that. The next question I have with the fact-finding thing is actually for you, Mr. Lemon. Do you have access to the bank account?
Yes, I do.
Do you use a check or credit card? How do you
Both.
use both? Who do you tell I'm going to spend some money?
Since day one, the bank statements has always went to somebody on MYSL board, LSC now.
Yeah.
I'm talking in the past.
Yeah.
So they got the bank statements. So somebody on that board always seen the bank statements every month.
Okay. In the last
Okay,
2 years, who's seen it?
Todd Coulter, when he came over from MYSL to FC Pride, he just kept continue getting those. 2 years ago,
Oh,
the
you
bank
just said something real quick. Todd Coulter is with FC Pride,
FC Pride now, yes, he was with MYSL,
but now he's with FC Pride.
yes.
Okay. Because
The-
all the people, the reason I'm saying about current, because it's my understanding that most of the folks who are on LSC are really only been around the people who've come with the problems and the accusations have only been around the last
Short time, yeah.
short period of time.
Yes,
Okay. Who else would get them?
that was it. They would go to there, and then when they mailed them, then Todd would have to get them to me so I could reconcile the account. 2 years ago, they made us go wireless or paperless. The bank did. So Todd has access to log on to that account anytime he wants to and review that
Okay, so
there.
Todd's with FC Pride,
Yes,
and Todd, and what is his role with FC Pride?
He's our bookkeeper,
He's your bookkeeper,
not treasurer.
right? So he's paid bookkeeper
and tax preparer.
and tax preparer. So he gets LSCI's financials.
correct.
Who else gets LSCI's financials?
Anybody that asks for them,
But I mean, no, structurally.
that's it.
Right. Okay. So that means that LSCI does not monitor itself.
At any time, I give reports to the Parks Board every year about what was taken in, what was spent.
But I mean, operationally,
Not on a day-to-day basis
or
or a monthly.
monthly or
No,
whatever.
or a quarterly meeting,
the
no.
person who's working your books represents one of the organizations that's supposed to make up
LSCI.
LSCI. Okay, I don't have any more questions.
If I could comment earlier on the umbrella that Councilman Allen talked about, back in 2000, when they redid the complex, Mayor Tom Snyder was the mayor at the time. He wanted one organization out there. Before they redid the fields, there were 7 different clubs playing on the fields. You talk about a nightmare. As I want to play on field 1, well, no, they're playing on there, So he said, no more, there should be one organization out there. Well, it finally got settled to be 2, a recreational group and a travel group. My opinion, though, it always should have been one group being out there. Then you can play on field 1 weekend, 17 the next weekend. That's the way it should be.
But why, in your opinion, why isn't it that way?
Back to what Ed said, the parents, everybody not getting along, trying to,
Why don't
Work
the
that
parents
out.
get along?
I don't know, because I'm not, when my kids went through NYSL and then through the Saints, the FC probably wasn't there when my kids were there, but they went through the travel.
So
I was fine with either one, but some people are just, they draw the line, say they're bad people, and they fight. I don't know why they do that.
Right. So with the parents not getting along has dictated the scheduling of the fields and that sort of thing.
Yes,
That's sad.
it is, and that's what I say. I mean, I'm out there volunteering my time for the kids. I don't care travel or
and
rec.
I know what part of it is. It's with all the things. I mean, when one parent's paying $2,000 for the kid to play soccer and another parent's paying $25 for the kid to play soccer, the parent that's paying $2,000 thinks they're better than the parent that's paying $25.
Wrong.
And the parent who pays $25
disagree.
thinks that he's as good as the parent, that his child should have all the things that the parent that's paying $2,000.
I take issue with that statement.
You do?
I do too.
Major.
Yeah, so do I.
Why?
Because my kid now came through the previous league and now plays for FC Pride. Okay, I came from that. Okay, so I don't think that I'm better. I don't think that my child is better.
I didn't say. Well, the question.
Maybe I took it wrong.
Well, the question
Maybe I
question
took it
keeps
wrong,
coming. The issue keeps coming up is that both of the folks who are involved with the organization. This is where it's substantial. You are making, not just you, several folks who are running the show are saying we can't do this that we think is best for the kids in the park based on parents getting along or not getting along. So now it goes from being gossip, people, whatever, opinions, to now we're making business decisions based on that. And in all fairness, Counselor, I asked each person who said that, why do you believe so? And you guys said you didn't know. And so then I said, it's my opinion that when you have such a disparity in the fees, some people are paying $2,000, some people are paying 25. Maybe that's why, you said some people look over and say, hey, they're not good people, and I don't want to be over there with them, and I'm in this league. And then them same people look over there and say, I don't want to be with those people because they're not good people. And a lot of times, like it or not, social economics plays into that. Just the same way my children go to Cathedral, right? I've been to the soccer league over there. People sometimes base opinions on that thing. So when we brought that up, even though you would say, hey, this is a public forum, we're trying to see what's best, but yet we're making decisions based on that. And so I'm trying to figure out, as we try to make the best decision, can it work? Because I believe it should be one league. You said you should believe it should be one league. The gentleman in the back said it should be one league. I'm sure Mayor Collier believes it should be one league. But if we went and sat behind the closed doors and said, let's work a deal where it's one league, I'm sure the first thing that's going to come up is, I don't know if that's going to work because people don't like each other. And so
I can
sometimes,
explain that.
Yeah.
Like I say, I came through the recreational program and through the travel, the previous travel, just like Councilman Allen
Right.
said, and I didn't have a problem. I never looked at it as them and us, and
Right.
you know.
Right. So maybe we should make a decision based on if you want to take that off the table, let's take it off the table and don't worry about it and make a decision based upon fiscal and what's best for the kids and fiscal, and let the parents shake it out if that's where we're at, because it seems like you've been involved for 20 plus years. Mm-hmm. That's a common thread we keep coming back to. And I would like to be part of a solution. If we're taking the time, we're having these meetings, I would like to work with you guys to come up with a solution that solves this for the most part for the foreseeable, That's
what I'm
because I think
because
I think you're a good man. I think you're putting in a lot of your time and doing what you're doing. And I really do believe that. And I think everyone involved in both organizations are good people investing their time into children, because you could be off.
Well, that's the thing.
Playing
With
golf or
all this bickering right now, I'd be better off playing out in the golf course.
Right.
than
I
shoot the ball,
understand that.
I mean, so
Right.
it's taking the fun for my relaxation of going out there and working on equipment, doing stuff. It's taking that away.
Yeah.
This kind of stuff.
Right.
Especially when I'm not even involved, when people are accusing stuff.
Right. Right.
And I have all the records out in my car.
Right.
I'll bring them in here,
Right.
and anybody can look at them.
Right.
All the bank statements.
Right.
Everything has been paid.
Right.
So,
Well, and my suggestion also to you, sir, is sometimes the structure can sometimes be a pain on the front end, but it protects you on the back end, because we can lay it all out. Hey, we had a meeting scheduled this quarter, but you didn't come. We didn't have a quorum. Here was the minutes. You didn't attend, so you don't get to say. I mean, you know what I mean?
Right.
You can say, hey, but when we say we didn't schedule a meeting because we knew they wouldn't come, now people say, hey, I got a problem. No different than you didn't like that you didn't get invited directly to this meeting. So we will, as a council, take all these different things that we found in consideration, bring those things back to the mayor's deal. Yes, sir.
I know Councilor Wells had some questions about the status of LSCI, and I pulled up the Secretary of State's filing for Lawrence Soccer Complex, Inc., which is its official name. It is a domestic nonprofit corporation, It has only made one filing. It's been in existence since August 4th of 2005. The sole filing it's made is its original articles of incorporation. It has never filed a business entity report, still has one due from August of 2006 all the way through 2017. And in 2008, the Secretary of State put it on its administrative dissolution list, saying that it's not properly filed the paperwork. So that's the current status. I know the organization's been advised one of the opportunities would be to get together as an organization and make yourself right with the state. There is one other item on your agenda tonight, Mr. Chairman, which is if the councilors have anything they want to discuss amongst themselves on this item, and if not, then you can adjourn.
I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Is that what you said?
I said the other item on your agenda tonight is a discussion among the the committee members. If you'd like to have that discussion, that's the next item.
Before we adjourn, I would like to, we haven't heard from LSC.
Oh, you want to hear from them again tonight? Okay.
I had just a couple of real quick questions for them, and then,
Can we get a representative of LSC to come up too?
And while that's happening, Mr. Chair, I don't think the best way to handle, making a global change is without having, everybody represented at the table, including parents. So wherever this goes, there needs to be representation from each parent organization or parents from each one of those organizations versus, us telling them. It's like back in education. I'm retired from that. We always think that we know what's best for kids. And so we come up with the whatever and we ram it down their throats. We don't know what's best for these organizations. We don't know what's best for the parents who participate in these organizations. So everybody needs to be at that table.
Exactly.
That's just a comment.
No, I thank you. Councilor Wells?
For the record, Mr. Chairman, sorry, Councilor Wells, Mr. Richardson just handed me the documents I believe he referenced earlier, which is the promissory note showing the information on the loan and the lights. And Mr. Richardson, correct me if I get any of this wrong. And it looks like 3 proposals, 2 in I believe they're all PowerPoints or spreadsheets of how to bring Lawrence Soccer into under one umbrella. Is that a fair representation, Mr. Richardson? I'll make sure members of the committee get copies of these.
That's the proposal that you said.
These are the proposals that Mr. Richardson referenced earlier. It looks like one is got Lawrence Soccer Club's emblem on it, so it must have been at that time. And then there's one that says Concept One Umbrella, FC Pride, Lawrence Soccer Club, all under one umbrella. So I'll make sure committee members get copies of those. If you'd like to see one now, I can pass it out, but I'll make sure you get them.
Thank you.
if I may, I would just like to pose the question to your group that I did with FC Pride. Do you employ or hire anybody within your group? Is anybody getting any monetary compensation or a salary, if you will, like FC Pride in your group? Is that including concession stands, field workers, whatever, maintenance workers?
This season, we did pay a field maintenance worker, and the concession stand employees work a few hours and they get paid, yes.
Okay. Would all that reflect on your financial statement when you provide it?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
I'm sorry, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Do you foresee, in case there isn't any major changes made, that LSCI stays in place, and I would assume you'll get your contract with the city as you have, do you foresee having your two appointments on the board with LSCI and going forward like it was intended?
We're working with the group now to get that in place, yeah.
Okay. I think that's all I have.
Okay.
Yeah.
I had a question about Councilor Wells. That was a very leading, good question. With your with your maintenance workers this year, you said was the first year that you needed to hire a field person. Could you explain to me why?
Because our fields were in bad shape and we needed to get them up to par so it wasn't a hazard to the children.
Do you have a roundabout of how much money you invested in your field outside of what, what kind of money did you guys invest in your fields?
For this season?
Yeah.
I mean, this year? I don't know offhand, but we have a record of that. I just don't know
Okay.
offhand.
All right. And, I'm sorry, guys. I do want to end this meeting, but there's things that have come up in the previous meeting that I want to make sure is clear and I missed. And so this question is back to Mr. Lemon. I do have one more question for you, sir, Mr. Lemon, because I want to make sure that we make things clear. Because I don't. There's been serious accusations, and I just want to give you opportunity to answer it. There was accusations at the last meeting about goals, soccer goals.
Specific, I think it was nets.
The goals and the nets.
Okay.
Okay, and so does LSCI purchase soccer goals?
Correct.
You do. Okay. How is the request made to get, if a goal needs to be repaired or replaced, how does LSC make that request?
Okay. I'm out there on a regular basis and I inspect the goals as much as I can. I'm out there. Somebody tells me the south fields, that person will say, we got a bad goal. Well, he'll just replace that goal with another goal because there's extra goals on the complex. So he'll replace that and tell me, then I'll come out there and look at it. Is it repairable? Is it not repairable? I'll make that decision. I have a guy from my work that comes out and welds aluminum.
Mm-hmm.
I don't weld aluminum myself. He repairs them.
Good old TIG weld.
And yeah, and when people know, we had a goal fall down on field 17 a year ago fall or spring. And I found out later that somebody, a board member, knew about that goal was broke and ready to fall apart, and we allowed that to happen. And that's disturbing to me because a kid could have been underneath that goal when it broke. The only thing I had to say was somebody call me and say, hey, we got a bad goal. Even if I'm out of town working, I got other people I can call and say, hey, replace that goal right now because it's a safety issue.
So the board member that you're saying that knew was a board member of
NYSL.
NYSL. Okay. Okay. Because that was a serious accusation that came out. The question was that you guys control so that's what we're also learning too. And I guess I should ask you that question because, some people say your role is just cutting, field maintenance, and then we find out, then it goes to your, like you gave us a really clear answer on the golf cart.
Yeah.
To, there was an accusation in the last meeting that they asked you to fix the goal or buy new goals for that the goals from field 1 through 15 are in better shape than goals from 16 to whatever the other, their fields, and that they've asked for replacement goals, and that
they've never
those
asked
requests
me,
were not made. That and they usually in particular said, Mr. Lemon said, we don't have any money for that, and so that's why I want to ask you: has a request ever been made to you to purchase new goals?
No.
Okay. Is there money in the budget, in your opinion, to buy new goals?
There always has been. I want to know when a kid cannot play because they didn't have a goal or a net.
Yeah, I heard balls.
I want to
were
know
kicking
that.
through they were saying balls were kicking through the nets. Kid kicked ball through the net.
I think that there was some allegation that some net got cut. I'm not exactly for sure the nature of why that happened, but then there was an indication that they requested additional nets from you and that they were unavailable. I don't know.
Right.
Never. They're always
Right.
available.
Okay. I just want to make sure that we addressed all that popped up. I'm sorry. Councilors, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved.